Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So like the title says, I have a little bit of a book haul to do. I know in my last book haul I talked about how I probably wouldn't do another haul for quite a while. So I am a big fat liar, so let's get that out of the way. But to be fair, most of this is from my Goodwill, and parts of this is I'd mentioned in a few other videos how my local used bookstore that I go to a lot, they closed like officially. The just it's gone. And for their like last day, like the official last day, all used books were $1. So I picked up a few things. There's not a lot of organization here, so I'm gonna just jump into it. It's 19 books, so almost 20. I can actually get through some of these pretty quickly. I picked up the entire, I'm pretty sure this is the entire 4-book series of the Books of Babel by Josiah Bancroft. They're not in order, but it starts off with Senlin Ascends, then Arms of the Sphinx, into the Hod King, into the Fall of Babel. I'm pretty sure this is it. The entire series, these were from that used bookstore. Each one was $1, $4 for an entire series. I've heard mostly good things for this series. The only critiques I've personally heard is that the writing is very distinct, and if you don't like the writing, you might as well not continue. But that is something that I prefer to hear early on. I really like straightforward type of writing. I haven't read anything, like I haven't even like read a chapter, so I don't know how the writing is. If I'm gonna pick up something that is very, I don't want to use a word overwritten, but for example, if this book is overwritten, I guess I'd rather know that going into it. I believe the series is about a man whose wife is taken into the Tower of Babel, and he must go through a bunch of stuff to get her back. That's all I really know. I don't really want to know much more than that, but I hope I enjoy it because I bought the entire series. The next book I picked up at my local Goodwill, and that is The Dwarfs by Marcus Heights. I've never read a book where a dwarf was like the main character. I've read books where like dwarves are like side characters and stuff. I have technically recently read a urban fantasy where our main character is like half dwarf, half human, but for the sake of this video, let's just say I've never read a dwarf like main character. Of course I've seen them in like film, television, and other books, but that's basically why I picked this up. The back of the book doesn't really tell me much about this other than like our main character, his name is Tungdil, is gonna go on some journey, which duh, probably. So yeah, I picked up The Rook by Daniel O'Malley. I've seen this one at that used bookstore for quite a while, and I always like hesitated picking it up, but once it was like marked down to $1, I was like, you know what, I might as well take it. I believe in this book we follow a woman who wakes up with her memory gone, and she kind of learns that she is now part of some high level like operative secret agency that like protects the world from like these disasters. I don't know the tropes or the elements of this book. I want to say like alternate universe type stuff. I'm not 100% sure. I'm thinking this might be sci-fi ish, which I don't read a lot of sci-fi. I really want to and like explore like the sci-fi world a little bit more. I'm hoping this is sci-fi. If it's fantasy, that's fine. I love fantasy as well, but I'm pretty sure that I'm getting like sci-fi stuff here. I'm truly just like picking books off the top of the pile and going from there. There's no organization here, but I found this edition of The Wizard of Oz, this really cute little like penguin. It's the Penguin Classics. I'm not sure, I'm not super well versed in special editions. I'm not a special edition collector since I buy most of my things used at Goodwill's used bookstores that aren't always like the best like stocked, so whatever's there I pick it up. I don't go out of my way to like special order books, but I saw this one. It was like $3. I thought it was really cute. I've never read The Wizard of Oz, even though like I would like to. So I also picked up A People's Future of the United States, edited by Victor LaValle and John Joseph Adams. I've been wanting to read more short stories. Last video that should be going up soon, it should be going up before this video, is me reading short story monster romances, which I'm assuming is gonna be very different from this. I also picked up Embassy Town by China Mayville. I have another one of his books, Kraken, that I have not read either. I believe this has to do with like language, and it's also obviously sci-fi. I think it takes place on a distant planet, but I believe language and like the exchanging of languages, I'm not sure, is a big element of this one. And it's a little heady from what I've heard. But if you're a China Mayville fan reader, let me know where I should start with him, because I know he writes very weird fiction. This is another book that was $1 that I could not resist. It was The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I haven't heard specifics of this book. That being said, it is inspired by the Trojan War, Helen of Troy, and all that kind of stuff, but from the perspective of another woman. And that's in general what I hear about some of these like Greek mythology like retelling slash looking at it from a more like feminine perspective, which is always intriguing to me, to look at history, or at least not necessarily history, but like look at these long established myths and tales from a perspective that kind of gets forgotten. That's kind of why I picked this one up. Also, a lot of praise towards this one specific book. It is the winner of the Booker Prize, so I don't think I could go wrong picking it up. Even if it's like not my thing, I probably won't leave reading it disappointed or like it's trash, it's garbage. I don't think that's gonna be like the reaction for this. There's also something about the cover that just like is so intriguing. It's like minimalist, but like in a cool way. I hate minimalism, but this works for me. I also have The Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James. I absolutely love this author. I don't know if it's like a spoiler or not, but a lot of times her mystery thrillers have like a paranormal element that is thrown in there. I don't think that's a spoiler really. I really enjoy them. I read the book, what was it called? The one about the girls at the boarding school, The Broken Girls. I really enjoyed that one. I listened to her other one, The Sundown Motel. Is that what it was called? Yeah, The Sundown Motel, on audiobook. Really enjoyed that as well. I'm not sure if I like it more in audio or physical book, or I just enjoy this author a lot. But in this one, we follow a true crime blogger, and I think she's like interviewing some woman who was like acquitted of some sort of crime, and she kind of gets involved in all that. Her stories typically have like two like timelines that we follow, and I always really end up liking both of them personally. Sometimes other readers don't, and that's fine, but I really like her work. So I finally read my first Ruth Ware book last year, I think, and I enjoyed it. It was fun, it was fine. It wasn't like amazing, which I think is what most people say about Ruth Ware. Like, no offense or anything, but like it's fun, it's exciting for what it is. But I've heard that The Turn of the Key is probably one of her better ones, if not the best one that she's come out with. I believe in this one we follow a woman who answers like a nanny job, and it starts nannying for this family, and it kind of ends with her in jail for the murder of this child, as well as like the child's dead. So she's somehow involved. I'm assuming that we're gonna take the perspective that she didn't do it. It sounds really thrilling and it looks really short, so I'm assuming I'll get the fix that I need from this. This is another book that I had my eye on for a while, and I only picked it up once all those books were on sale for $1, and this is Ashante by Gita Trelease. I believe it was renamed to something else. I don't remember what it's called, but the title changed. I really don't remember off the top of my head, but we're gonna just call it Ashante. In this book we follow a young woman who's kind of down on her luck, and she needs to do something to turn around her fortune, and I believe she kind of goes undercover or like pretends to be part of the like French nobility in the time of Louis the 16th. Is it 16th and Marie Antoinette? I think it's the 16th. I could be wrong. I'm not super well versed in my Louis. It's kind of like a con job. This is YA fantasy, and I've never heard anything about this book. I've seen it before, and I believe it was in some book boxes at the time it came out. I like the French Revolution, not as because like I love Europe. It's more like I like the French Revolution because I like revolutions, and I like people sticking it to the rich, and I'm assuming there's going to be elements of that here since our main character is poor and she's trying to steal from the rich. So yeah. I also picked up Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare. at my Goodwill. I saw it and I was like, I don't have this. I know this is the series that's currently ongoing, question mark. I have not caught up until this point in the series. I'm still like on the Shadowhunters Academy short stories. I have not continued on. I am more open to this series because this kind of is in her historical Shadowhunters bag, which is like her best work was the Clockwork Princess series. That one was really good, and this kind of follows that somewhat soon after. I'm not sure how long. I'm hoping that those vibes will rub onto here because I haven't heard the best things of like the other ones, the Lady Midnight, whatever. I have never read Riley Sager as far as I remember, so I picked up Home Before Dark, again, for $1. I don't know too much about any of his books. I tend to kind of just stray away from any Riley Sager discourse because it's either like he's amazing, wonderful author who writes great thrilling books, to he's dog, his writing's absolute dog, his story's absolute dog. So I don't know much about this particular one. I believe this has to do with a family that stayed at this like estate, this home, and they had a horrible, like terrifying experience, and they like left like after a few days, like 20 or so days, less than a month. They stayed at this home, and the experience caused one of the family members to write like a House of Horrors type memoir novel. And then I think they go back to this like haunted home, this haunted Victorian manor. I'm not sure like the setting, but that's cool. I love haunted homes, and I've never tried Riley Sager, so maybe I'll do this for like a trying new authors type video. I think that would be fun since I'm assuming this will read quickly. I picked up 2 Nora Roberts. I have Year One, and then I have Shelter in Place, 2 very different types of Nora Roberts. I've never read her before. I really want to. I picked up this one because it was one of her more like fantastical works. I believe this takes place during like a plague or something. Plague hits and kind of like decimates the entire world. It's like post-apocalyptic and people are trying to survive. I think magic starts becoming a thing once like technology like shuts down, something like that. I could be wrong, I don't know, I'm talking out of my butt here. I read a plague book semi recently. I read Shadow of the Blackbirds by Kat Winters, and it took place during like the Spanish influenza, and it was so trippy reading that in the middle of the pandemic. So I don't know if I'll get like that same kind of like woo experience reading this. Hopefully I do, because it was creepy, but I enjoyed it. And I also picked up this one, Shelter in Place. I heard this is like one of her better ones. I could be wrong, but yes, I think in this book we follow a few people who went through a a mass shooting event, and the years or how they're doing after the fact. I've never read Nora Roberts. I really want to, and again, I've heard this is one of her better ones. So yeah. I also picked up Arsenic and Adobo by Mia P. Manansala. This is a kind of cozier mystery, which I've been wanting to read more cozy mysteries. I believe in this one we follow a woman who works at her aunt's restaurant, and a very harsh food critic comes in who just happens to be her ex-boyfriend, and I think he dies like while eating the food, and it might have been poisoned, and obviously she's gonna be involved because it's the restaurant that she works at, and she had like a relationship with the guy. I've seen this cover around like on websites and like bookstagrams and stuff, and I never really like looked into what it was about, but this is The Library of the Dead by T.L. I'm sorry if I pronounce this wrong, Huchu. I believe in this book we follow a woman who talks to the dead, and it's all pretty like fine until she finds out from the dead that someone's like hurting children, and I guess she's gonna get to the bottom of it. I know this is a series. I don't know how many have been published, but I'm so happy that I found the first book, because sometimes I go to my Goodwill and I find books like 2, 3, 4, 5, and I never find the first one, but this is the first one, I'm pretty sure. So this one looks fun too. Again, another book to try for authors I've never read before. And the last book, I normally would not have picked this up, but I saw the author's name and I was like, this looks very familiar. But I picked up The Winter King by Bernard Cornwell. This seems like that kind of like old school like fantasy that isn't like super magic dependent. I believe this is like an Arthurian type story. I believe this takes place in Britain, and Arthur has been like banished, and like Merlin's disappeared, and there's like a child king like on the throne or something, and it's like very religion versus magic, and then Arthur comes back, and it's this whole like epic story. I don't know how long the series is. The book is long and the font is small. I don't read a lot of Arthurian stuff, but the ones that I have read tend to like resonate with me like really well. Like who does, like Jeff Wheeler, I think, does a lot of Arthurian stuff in his stories, like Arthurian elements or like references, and I really like them. So yes, that is it. That is the book haul. I hope I didn't sound like rushed, but with book hauls, I don't want to ramble about books that I obviously haven't read yet and like sound like an idiot, so I kind of just breeze through them. Please let me know if you've read any of these, if you are interested in reading any of these. I'd like to hear anything you have to say down below in the comments. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.